you need some time in between to decompress, to reflect on your accomplishments, reflect on things that you wanted to do better, and you really need time to mentally prepare for the next position because you want to show up as your best self. You want to show up ready to basically hit the ground running. Welcome to Tall Girl in Bloom, a space for self-growth, mindfulness, and standing tall in who you are. Today, I'm giving you all tips on how to gracefully resign from your position. A couple months back, we talked about the different tools you can use to manifest your new job. Now you have the new job, it's been manifested. What are the steps that you can take to make sure that you have a very peaceful and positive transition from your old job to your new job? My very first tip is to make sure that you put in a timely notice. Depending on your relationship with your supervisor, you may even want to provide them notice before you have an official job offer and just say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm looking for opportunities for growth, and in the next few months, this is my plan. Now, I know a lot of us probably don't have that type of relationship, so what I would say is once you get your job offer, if you are able to negotiate your start date with your new job, try to set it up so that you can at least give a 2-week notice, if not maybe a little bit more, depending on what type of field that you work in. So that way your supervisor, your colleagues, all your stakeholders will feel like you're being very considerate of them and that your aim is to make sure it's a smooth transition for everyone. My second tip is make sure that you set realistic expectations, and that goes for your expectations that you place on yourself and the expectations that others place on you. Once you know the time remaining you have at that position, go through whatever you're working on, any major projects, and be realistic. Don't try to save the world. Don't think that you can handle everything, because 9 times out of 10, there are going to be some tasks that need to be turned over, that need to be delegated to other people. I would say give yourself grace and set those expectations up front so that people are not asking too much of you and that you're not stressing yourself out on your way out. It's supposed to be a celebratory time. Everybody understands people get new jobs every day. So set those expectations very early on, and hopefully by doing that, you will avoid any rifts with anyone as you're making your transition out. My third tip is to create boundaries. And this is similar to the last tip, but when I say create boundaries, what I mean is don't allow people to project their stress onto you. Now, you may follow the first 2 tips that I just gave you perfectly well, but ultimately, you can't control how other people respond to your news that you're leaving. Some people will take it well, some people might freak out and start scrambling like, oh my goodness, I need to make sure this person does all of this before they leave so that it's not then put on my plate. Make sure you do not allow people to project their stress onto you. That is huge, because you're at a point now where you are prepping for a new position, and yes, you want to close everything out efficiently, but you cannot allow people to project their stress onto you. That is not healthy. That's not conducive to a productive environment. So make sure in the very beginning that you just make it clear to everybody what your plan of action is, how you're going to accomplish making sure you can get done whatever you set prior in your expectations, and leave it there. You do what you can and don't allow people to project any nonsense onto you. My fourth tip is to take everything in stride. One of my biggest pet peeves when I'm moving on to a new position, especially a position that is bigger and better, which usually is the case when you're moving on to a new position, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people make just off the wall comments like, how did you get that job? Or are you sure that's a good move? So similar to what I said before about not allowing people to project their stress onto you, don't allow them to project their doubts or anything, any negativity. Don't allow them to project that onto you. So take those type of comments in stride. when people try to throw you off path or catch you off guard, just take those comments in stride and don't waste your time getting angry, because again, this is a good time for you. There are so many reasons why people make comments like that. We don't know what their frame of reference is, why they might think the way they think. So just let it slide right off your back and keep it moving. My fifth and final tip is actually one that I recently learned myself, and that is to give yourself time in between jobs to decompress. That is very important, especially if you are leaving a dynamic environment that was very high stress. You need some time in between to decompress, to reflect on your accomplishments, reflect on things that you wanted to do better, and you really need time to mentally prepare for the next position, because you want to show up as your best self. You want to show up ready to basically hit the ground running. Take that time, whether that's a few days or a week. I know some people even take 2 weeks, and of course that's if you have the finances to hold you over. Hopefully you're not living paycheck to paycheck, but definitely give yourself time to decompress. It really is very important. Now, if you follow all these tips that I gave you on your way out, if you are working with a reasonable group of people, you should have a very smooth transition. Always remember that you can't control what other people do or say, so you could follow all these tips to a T and still run into issues. But like I said, you need to take everything in stride. As long as you have your boundaries set and you're honoring your boundaries, you're fine and you're good to go. Let me know down below which of these tips you follow when you get a new job and when you're making your transition. I also want to know if you have been using any of the manifestation tips from my last video a couple months back. Let me know about that as well. I know I've been really on my affirmation tip lately, so you all haven't seen me in several weeks. I'm going to start mixing it up a little bit more. Let me know also in the comment section what type of videos you want to see from me, and I'll make sure I'll get those out to you. Until next time, and hopefully I'll be seeing you sooner rather than later.